get when you take the world's most anxious man-child with crippling mommy issues and graft him onto the Odyssey? This guy. You get Ari Aster's third feature film, Beau is Afraid. Rip Disappointment Boulevard. A 3-hour, surreal, nightmare-core tragicomedy that is guaranteed to have its champions labeled as pretentious and its detractors labeled as dumb. Everyone loses. It's also my least favorite kind of movie experience because it's from a filmmaker that I like. I really liked Hereditary. That is some of the most I've ever felt impacted by moments of grief in a film. I liked Midsommar less, but still enjoyed it, and this film is bursting with creativity and great ideas and technical brilliance, and yet I hated watching it. I think everyone has had that experience with one or maybe several of these films that we've been seeing where up-and-coming auteurs are being handed these big budgets and taking a huge swing. I was getting a lot of Green Knight energy in the way that Aster is using a classical story as a tool for subverting the hero's journey, making it about a giant loser. But also Nope, Babylon, these outings where they don't really care what the audience thinks. They're just taking their chance to use this budget that they've been giving and make a project that they feel that they need to make, and it's awesome. And so in that way, I want to say I am not anti this. It's pure unfiltered art. I think it's important, and I think it's awesome that it's starting this conversation, even if I didn't like the film, which I think can actually be boiled down to 2 or 3 things, which we'll get into. But I want to hear from people who liked the film too, what your experience was. I would much rather have something like this than something that is safe and palatable for everyone, because sometimes it seems like that's the direction we're headed. But this is absolutely Aster's most idiosyncratic and ambitious film. It's like this abstract quilt of an epic that has a lot of weird stuff in it, storybook stuff in it. It is not grounded in reality at all, and it's frustrating by design because it's trying to put you in the shoes of a man who only has things happen to him. Because of his relationship with his overbearing Jewish mother, he is riddled with guilt and anxiety, almost to the point of paralysis. It starts out with a great sequence of Beau at his apartment building, and he kind of lives in this surreal, exaggerated version of Skid Row, and some of that I honestly thought was I was side-eyeing a little bit, but it does really bring you into that feeling of like everything is a threat, everyone is out to get you, if you forget to take your pill with water, you'll die. I definitely think this should be viewed more as a comedy than anything for the best experience. I would not describe it as horror at all if you're worried about that. There is a classic Ari Aster attic scene in the 3rd act that is just shocking, but it doesn't take itself seriously at all. Aster is cracking a lot of jokes, and it got some laughs out of me. I wouldn't say that I fully vibe with his sense of humor, but a ton of the people in my theater were like cracking up. So some people will vibe with that more than others. But that apartment sequence is great. Very absurd and chaotic and visceral, and it's probably the best part of a movie that from there just continues to descend further into madness and the unreal on this journey of Beau trying to get back home after the sudden death of his mother, much of which displays things that I've never seen in a movie before. Some that require a lot of creativity, and some that require just having seen Synecdoche, New York. And you're gonna hear this film described a lot as exhausting or punishing, and sometimes it really is as simple as it is just too long. A 3-hour runtime has to be earned, and I'll get into why I didn't think it was in a second, but a movie that you don't like is made all the more excruciating by overstaying its welcome, and I think there were several sequences that could have been omitted here, even parts of the play sequence that is very beautiful but kind of didn't add anything to the central story, and a big chunk of when he is at this house of Amy Ryan and Nathan Lane's characters. Things that are good but have moments and scenes that drag on way too long and often feel redundant. But at the same time, I could have used more of what I found most intriguing, especially with his relationship with his mother. I mean, that's the driving force of the film, and I feel like we didn't actually really learn a lot about it. It all stays pretty surface level and never feels fully lived in, despite great performances from both Patti LuPone and Zoe Lister-Jones. And besides the technical editing, a runtime can feel earned if you're just really invested in watching the main character go through all of this, but my second biggest issue is the titular Beau. It's pretty killer when you don't care about the main character of a 3-hour movie, and Joaquin Phoenix is great here. He shows a really great physicality, and again, the gag is super funny in the beginning, but eventually eventually the novelty wears off and you realize that he's not only pretty one note, but actually kind of annoying. I didn't like the way that he mumbled and whined, and a lot of his actions felt redundant, and I know to an extent that's the point, but if you're also asking me to be invested in this journey, then what are we doing here? At a certain point, it all just starts to feel like noise, and I just don't think those things coexisted very well, which isn't helped by the fact that it's structured to be kind of chapters or vignettes. He's at his apartment, he's at the house, he's in the woods. Nothing is anchored to anything else, so a lot of effort is required by the viewer to not only be deciphering all this symbolism that's being thrown at you, but to simply just care about what's going on. And I think it fits in a trend that I particularly don't like in films, where it feels like the filmmaker is working backwards from an idea, or in this case, many ideas, because this is based off of the short film that Ari Aster did called Beau, and I think he worked in many others, and I'll put a link to that down below. But trying to create a story that fits within your larger point, rather than having the meaning be born from the story itself. And it all gets crazier and crazier, and it's kind of building to this grand revelation or reveal in the third act, and you're kind of just left feeling underwhelmed and wondering why it matters in this kind of unexplainable way. You can analyze this film into the ground, the Freudian aspects, corporate America, prescription drugs and urban decay, the parallels to the Odyssey, but for some reason it doesn't touch you. You aren't motivated to care, like it's all glued onto something with a hollow center. And again, that's not to say that there isn't a lot of good here or moments that do tap into that. I just think that something doesn't have to be this much in order to be profound. And on the flip side of that, just because it is this complex and abstract, that doesn't make it profound. So I'm going to give Beau is Afraid 2.5 out of 5 stars. If it's speaking to you, see it for yourself. This is a really hard movie to nail down and talk about, and a lot of different people are gonna feel all sorts of ways about it. I'm not gonna call it a career killer because it's not. Ari Aster is gonna make a lot more movies. This is something that he had to make. He says it's his film that he's most proud of. Clearly, it makes sense to him, and it's gonna make a lot of sense to a lot of people. I'm just gonna have to sit this one out, but I got a free t-shirt, so I'm happy. Please, guys, let me know your thoughts on Beau is Afraid. Learning from your beautiful words is the best part of not liking a film, and let me know your thoughts on Ari Aster as a filmmaker. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.